You've been reading the wrong advice for years. Every list, every blog, every polished little article telling you which colors flatter a fuller figure after 60, which cuts to camouflage, which prints to hide behind. And still, you open your closet in the morning, you put something on, you look in the mirror, and something feels off. Bigger, boxier, less like you, not because you did anything wrong. Because the advice you were handed was written for a body you don't have, in a life you're not living, by people who never once asked women like you what actually makes you feel larger in your own clothes. So this time, nobody's guessing. Real women, real closets, real answers. Some of what they said matched the blogs, most of it didn't. And one thing in particular came up over and over and over, the single most repeated complaint. And by the end of this you're going to know exactly what it is, and exactly how to fix it in the outfit you're wearing tomorrow. Welcome back to the Style Dossier, where we treat your closet like a case file, not a courtroom. If nobody's told you lately, you're allowed to enjoy getting dressed at any age, in any size, on any budget, and if that sounds like the kind of company you want to keep, go ahead and hit subscribe so the next case file lands right in your feed. Now let's open this one. The first thing that came up, again and again, from women size 16 and up, women in their 60s, 70s, a few in their early 80s, was not a color, was not a print, was not stripes, believe it or not, and we'll get to stripes in a minute because there's a study you need to hear about. The first thing was the shapeless cardigan, that soft, long, open front cardigan, sold in every catalog aimed at older women, oatmeal, charcoal, dusty rose. Draped like a bathrobe, hanging past the hip, no closure, no shape, no waist, marketed as forgiving, described as cozy, bought in threes, and almost every woman interviewed said the same thing about it. They feel enormous in it, not warm, not chic, enormous. Because when a garment has no defined stopping point, no waist, no closure, no structure at the shoulder, the eye reads the whole silhouette as one wide continuous shape from the ear down to the knee. The problem isn't the woman inside the cardigan. The problem is the cardigan pretending to hide her while actually erasing every line that would have made her look like a person and not a soft rectangle. The swap here is not fewer cardigans, nobody's asking you to give up soft layers. The swap is a cardigan that ends at the natural waist or just below, or one long enough to have a real belt, a real tie, a real closure at the middle. A knit blazer works, a cropped cardigan over a longer top works, a duster with a tie sash works. Anything that tells the eye where you end and where the next line begins. Now here's the moment where I have to tell you something the fashion internet has been getting wrong for about 40 years. Stripes. The old rule says horizontal stripes make you look wider, vertical stripes make you look thinner. End of story, don't argue. Except researchers at the University of York actually tested it. On illustrated figures, on cylinders, on a full three-dimensional mannequin. And what they found flipped the rule on its head. The horizontally striped mannequin had to be made 10.7% wider than the vertically striped one before viewers judged them to be the same width. 10.7%. Meaning under those controlled conditions, horizontal stripes actually made the figure look slightly slimmer, not wider. Now I'm not going to sit here and tell you every horizontal stripe on every body in every light is going to behave that way, because the follow-up research is clear that stripe spacing, garment cut, contrast, and comparison all shift the effect. But the confident, decades-old rule that horizontal stripes are automatically fattening, that rule was never as solid as the magazines made it sound. Which means if you've been avoiding a top for 30 years because it had stripes going the wrong way, you may have been avoiding it for nothing. The women interviewed backed this up in their own words. Several of them said the striped tops they actually feel best in are horizontally striped, in soft muted tones, with the stripes narrow rather than thick. The ones that made them feel bigger were bright, high contrast, wide-banded stripes that drew the eye to the widest part of the torso. So the fix isn't stripe direction, the fix is stripe scale, and stripe contrast. Narrow, low contrast, soft-toned stripes read as texture. Wide, high contrast, hard-edged stripes read as a target. Pick texture, skip the target. Now the third thing that came up in these conversations, and this was the one that surprised me most, was fabric. Not color, not print, fabric. Specifically, stiff fabric. The kind of thick, structured, almost cardboard-feeling cotton, or heavy synthetic that stands away from the body instead of settling around it. Women described putting on a stiff button-down shirt or a boxy structured tunic and feeling like they'd added 4 inches in every direction. And there's a reason for that. There's textile research, published in the journal PLOS One, that measured what's called fabric drape, meaning the way a fabric folds and falls under its own weight in 3 dimensions. The researchers looked at 20 different polyester woven fabrics and found that objective drape measurement lined up with how people subjectively judged the garment's appearance at a correlation of 0.967. That's an extraordinarily tight relationship. Which is the science way of saying, the way a fabric hangs is the way the garment looks, not the size on the tag, the hang. So stiff fabric that stands off the hip, stands off the hip. Soft fabric with real drape follows the actual shape of the actual body underneath. Two garments cut from the exact same pattern in two different fabrics will read as two completely different silhouettes. The swap here is not to avoid all structure. Structure at the shoulder is your friend, we'll come back to that. The swap is to notice fabric behavior before you buy. Hold the garment up, let it hang from your hand. Does it fall in a soft weighted line, or does it jut out like a bell? If it juts, it's going to jut on your body too. A soft rayon, a good jersey, a heavier viscose blend, a silk touch polyester, a fine merino, a washed linen once it's been broken in. These move with you. A stiff poplin, a canvas tunic, a boxy structured cotton in a loose cut. These move with the room. Here's where I want you to pause for a second, because we're roughly at the halfway mark, and I want to hear from you. Of everything we've covered so far, cardigan, stripes, fabric, which one made you go, oh, that's me, that's the thing in my closet right now? Tell me in the comments. One word is fine, cardigan, stripes, or fabric. I read them, and if there's a fourth thing I haven't mentioned yet, one specific garment you've never felt right in, drop that too. It shapes the next case file. Okay, back to it. The fourth pattern that came up in the interviews is what I'll call the middle erasure problem. This was the single most repeated complaint from every group I spoke with. Women said they feel biggest not when they wear something tight and not when they wear something loose, but when the garment they're wearing has no defined middle, no waist seam, no belt, no tuck, no tie, no shape at the rib cage. Just fabric falling from the shoulders straight down past the hip in a single unbroken line. This is the #1 repeated complaint, more than color, more than print, more than fit, and it's the one thing the styling blogs almost never address directly because they're too busy telling you which shade of navy to buy. When there is no middle, the eye has nowhere to land, so it reads the whole shape as one block. When there is a middle, even a soft one, even just a half tuck at the front of a shirt, even just a thin belt over a tunic, even just a cardigan tied with a ribbon at the natural waist, the eye finds a break, and the silhouette turns from block into shape. Watch what happens the next time you're in front of the mirror, put on the outfit that makes you feel biggest, then take one finger and just gather the fabric at the smallest part of your waist and hold it there. Watch your whole silhouette rearrange. That's the fix, that's the entire fix. It's not a diet, it's not a color, it's a middle, and the women I talked to who figured this out on their own said it changed everything, because suddenly the same clothes they already owned started working, a belt they'd never worn, a front tuck they'd been afraid of, a wrap dress instead of a shift, a tie-waist blouse instead of a straight tunic. Same body, same closet, different middle. Number 5, sleeves. Nobody talks about sleeves. Every list you read talks about hemlines and necklines, and nobody mentions that the sleeve is doing half the work of the entire outfit. Women in the interviews consistently said they feel bigger in 2 specific sleeve types. 1. The tight short sleeve that stops right at the widest part of the upper arm and cuts across it like a rubber band, creating a hard visible line exactly where you don't want a hard visible line. 2. The wide flowy bell sleeve or bishop sleeve that adds volume out to the side and doubles the visual width of the torso. Neither of these is a sin, both are fine on someone else, but they were named, by name, as the sleeves that made these particular women feel widest. The sleeves they felt best in were 3/4 length ending just past the elbow, or a soft long sleeve pushed up to the forearm, or a fitted short sleeve that ends past the widest point of the arm rather than right on it. There's a reason the 3/4 sleeve has been a wardrobe staple for older women for about 100 years, and it isn't just tradition. It ends at the narrowest part of the forearm, which draws the eye inward instead of outward, which makes the whole upper body read as narrower. That's not magic, that's just where the line stops. 6. Shoes. I know, we're way down the body now, but stay with me because this one is bigger than it sounds. A surprising number of women in these conversations said they feel bigger in bulky sneakers, in chunky orthopedic shoes, in heavy platform sandals, not because those shoes are ugly, because those shoes visually chop the leg off at the ankle, adding a wide horizontal block right where the vertical line of the leg should be finishing. And when you shorten the vertical, you widen the hole. The swap isn't giving up comfort. Nobody's telling you to squeeze into pointed heels at 72 years old to look thinner in an Instagram photo. The swap is a shoe closer in tone to your pant or skirt or hosiery, so the line of the leg carries into the shoe instead of stopping at it. A taupe pant with a taupe loafer reads as one long line. A taupe pant with a bright white chunky sneaker reads as a leg with a brick tied to it. Same foot, same comfort level in the right brand. Completely different silhouette. 7. Color contrast between top and bottom. This one came up in almost every conversation, and it lines up with real color theory, not fashion blog color theory. Encyclopedia Britannica describes it plainly. When you place two high contrast colors next to each other, the eye is pulled to the border between them, and each color looks more intense. When you place two low contrast colors next to each other, the eye reads them as continuous. Which means when you wear a bright white top and dark black pants, the eye locks onto the horizontal line at your waist. When you wear a soft cream top and warm taupe pants, the eye slides right down the whole outfit without stopping. Not because one is thinner than the other in some absolute sense, but because one has a visual interruption at the middle and the other does not. The women interviewed described this in their own words without knowing the theory. They said outfits where the top and bottom were closer in tone made them feel taller and leaner. Outfits where the top and bottom were far apart in brightness made them feel cut in half. Neither is wrong to wear. But if the goal on a specific morning is to feel less bisected, keep the top and bottom in the same tonal family, not the same color, the same family. A dusty rose top with a warm taupe pant, a sage blouse with an olive trouser, a soft ivory shirt with a warm cream skirt. Column dressing, quiet column dressing, is one of the oldest tricks in professional styling, and every woman who described stumbling onto it in her own closet said the same thing. She felt like herself again. And 8. The final one. This came up quieter than the others, but it came up consistently. Necklines, specifically high crew necks and wide boat necks, both were named as making women feel wider through the upper body, but for different reasons. The high crew neck cuts the throat off short, which makes the head and shoulders read as one continuous block. The wide boat neck extends the visible shoulder line horizontally, which literally widens the top of the frame. The neckline women felt best in, over and over, was a soft V, a soft scoop, a shallow open collar, not deep, not plunging, just open enough to show a little bit of collarbone and a little bit of neck, which lengthens the whole upper body and creates a vertical line pointing down into the outfit rather than a horizontal one cutting across it. A soft V-neck sweater over a camisole. An open button down with the top two buttons undone. A scoop neck tee under a jacket. These are not revealing, these are just open, and open is what the eye needs. So let's close the file. The women in these conversations didn't say the things the blogs told me they would say. They didn't rank colors, they didn't obsess over prints, they didn't talk much about size numbers at all. They talked about the shapeless cardigan that erases their frame. They talked about stripes being unfairly blamed when the real culprit was contrast and scale. They talked about stiff fabric that stands off the body instead of moving with it. They talked, more than anything else, about the missing middle, no waist, no belt, no tuck, nothing to break the block, and that was the single most repeated complaint across every conversation. They talked about sleeves ending in the wrong place. They talked about chunky shoes cutting the leg short. They talked about high contrast tops and bottoms slicing the outfit in half. They talked about necklines closing off the throat and widening the shoulder. Not one of them said the answer was to hide. Every single one of them said the answer was to be shaped, to be seen, to have a line, to have a middle, to have a wrist, to have a neck, to have a leg that finishes where a leg is supposed to finish. The rule you were handed was that after a certain age, in a certain size, you should disappear into your clothes. The women who actually live in those bodies said the exact opposite. They feel biggest when they disappear. They feel most like themselves when the outfit shows them where they begin and where they end. That's not a diet tip. That's not a hack. That's a permission slip. Take the belt out of the drawer. Try the half tuck. Swap the stiff tunic for the soft one. Match the shoe to the pant. Put the cardigan back on the hanger and pick up the one that ties at the waist. Everything else is negotiable. The middle is not. This has been the Style Dossier. If this one gave you even one useful thing to try tomorrow morning, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps the next woman find this. Subscribe if you want the next case file to land in your feed. And in the comments, tell me the garment you're going to look at differently now. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and go get dressed like